So, welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. Today, we have a new rule book. Kind of new. It's been out for a couple days now, most likely. I don't know. Either way, we're going to go through a bunch of stuff, about 9 or 10 things, and I am not alone. I actually have Cam today, who's in the background. Probably you can hear him if he says hello.
Yeah, they probably could hear me.
Okay, fantastic. Either way, let me know any questions throughout the entire video if you've been watching it, or as you watch it, or at the end, whatever it may be, in the comments below. Either I or Cam, most likely Cam, will answer those questions for you. And of course, subscribe if you're new. Let me know if you're new to the game, and we'll go from there. Anyway, so yeah, we have Cam today, a well-renowned judge, a bodybuilder of sorts. Maybe
Please, you
self-proclaimed.
speak too highly of me.
Self-proclaimed bodybuilder. No, I'm just kidding. No, the dude can probably bench me and like four of
bodybuilding,
me.
you mean eating more food so my stomach gets bigger? Then absolutely.
I mean, your muscles are getting there too, so it's fine. Either way, my man was literally judging Gen Con, right? And has judged multiple events for the last, I don't know, 10 years, it feels like, since this game come out. So he knows his stuff, and I know a couple things. But today we're going to go through a couple things. The first one is understanding what fail means, because it just got recently added to the rule book, right? This wasn't in there.
Yeah, it was clarified.
Oh, okay, good. Because I know
it's a good clarification for to process.
Mm-hmm. So fail is 03-16, and use whenever a rule is unable to be processed, an effect is unable to be resolved, or similar situation occurs, and the target event is replaced by another event. The event is not executed and therefore is not considered to be failed. So there's a bunch of stuff, especially with this new ultimate ruling, which we'll go through in a little bit, about that. So this interaction we talked about a couple times now. Did you want to explain that?
Yeah, so when you look at Mechagabura, the Broken Seal, the auto, it is preventing the player from playing the card, essentially, or the best way to look at it is that you can't actively play it. You can't play the cards. Mm-hmm. And when you look at Apex of Power, you look at the activate, I believe the activate main skill, and you follow the text as written. So you meet all the credentials, you meet the requirements, you negate skills on board, or negate skills for what the activate main reads.
Mm-hmm.
But because you can't resolve the remainder of that, and you can't resolve the card actually being put into play because it's being Mechagabura is not allowing it, the card fails to play. Due to the new ultimate clarification, Apex is removed from the from play. Yeah.
So long story short, right, is that Mechagabura says, hey, you can't play copies of this card if I name it, right? I name it successfully of the Son Goku and Vegeta. And then this says for the P5, as long as you have this, you negate the skills of your opponent's non-extra cards in all areas until the opponent's next turn, and then play this card from your hand. So the first part resolves, but the second part doesn't, and it gets sent out of game, right?
Yep, and then the opposite of that effect is if you try to God Sealing an SCR, it actually will not be removed from play because that is a replacement effect, or replaced by another event. As God Sealing states, it is put back to the opponent's hand, which seems like a great way to segue into how the ultimate ruling, or the ultimate keyword, is being processed from here on out.
Right, which is not in this slide, so we'll go to that one first. So this one is actually the fourth one. This one is saying basically the permanent keyword. You can go through it if you like.
The permanent keyword related to deck construction. Ultimate is only one copy of the card per deck. If a card with ultimate is moved from out of a battle or unison area, in addition to cases where the card is removed from the game, it is removed from the game instead. If a card with ultimate fails to enter play, which coincides back to this first slide, sorry for jumping through.
It's fine.
It's removed from the game instead of being placed in the drop area. And then the activation of an extra card with ultimate, Heroine's Lineage. When a lot of people were talking about this, they're like, no, Heroine's Lineage is actually not good anymore. And I'm like, were we actually using the second effect? The first effect, I mean, to bring back stuff for 5. So once you activate the activate battle heroine's lineage to seal something, you then actually instead of going to drop, it gets removed from play because it's already been activated. The skill's resolved, or the skill is attempted to resolve. It is done.
Right.
This also brings into another point, which I think we'll discuss later about when cards move zones.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting that basically every single ultimate is touched by this, right? So every single ultimate, doesn't matter how it is or how it works now, as long as it gets removed from the battle area or from that area, it's removed from play. And this is something you can barely see the text, but it boils down to the second effect where you pitch it as an extra card, right? And then you steal something. As soon as you pitch it, it gets removed from game. But this, where you pitch it, all extra cards go to drop, and then you can use the remove from game thing where you pay 5, and then you just do all the rest of the effects. But like you said, I don't think anybody was really using that anyway. So you know,
And if you were, and that's you, I'm sorry this hit the card so hard, but it's I don't know what else to say.
it's a big bummer. You know, I could say there's new permanent effects, kind of, not really. But clarification, which
Yes.
we are in the way here. I'll
Yes.
this huge bodybuilder muscles right here just got moved. My bad. We have Gogeta, we have Gamma 1 and 2, and basically Bond. But the first two things is kind of like the permanent how it works, and as well as this here. But I guess this is what, yeah, I would say two different things here where we can talk through the permanent and how this affects or is affected or not affected by non-Gogeta GT skills, and then how
Yeah.
this permanent and this auto is. But you can go through it.
Yeah. So it's gonna come down to when the rulebook came out, a lot of the, a lot of the judges who do a lot of the higher level events, as you know, like Gen Con or a lot of the regionals, we've been kind of talking back and forth because when we have these rulebooks come out, we like to collaborate as our little own community and talk it out, figure out what's the logic behind this, what's the logic behind this, and we noticed that there was an problem with how the rulebook was stating with permanent skills. It was brought up, clarified, and moved forward. And in a prior video, I believe with DBS Deck Planet, um, David Fashbinder did mention this permanent ruling. But what is happening is that the 8-drop Gogeta that is on the screen is going to rule and work much like how Gamma does, because it actually boils down to affirmative versus negative references in a permanent skill. And breaking that down means is that if a permanent skill is looking for the absence of a trait, perfect example is the permanent on the Gogeta, stating that you're looking for non-Gogeta GT, so it's looking for something omitting that character trait. It is looking at everything. Unisons, extra cards from your hand. So SS4 Gogeta is not affected by Boo Unison. You cannot play the Broly Secret Rare off of the SS4 Gogeta. The SS4 Gogeta is meant to be this powerhouse of a card that stays on board and is hard to get rid of. It is a definition of a boss monster. Very hard to get rid of, very powerful.
And this is
And the
Max
reason,
Kamehameha even?
I mean, look, it
I
can't be
know.
affected.
I know.
It's, but then we also, the reason why we have Gamma up here is because it references that concept,
Mhm.
is because it is, the permanent says you cannot use non-red ribbon army. That is looking for the omission of a character trait. Now, when I mean an affirmative and it's looking for a character trait, you look at the concept of by battle or battle area or leader area is skills as you see on Android 15 in Organic Horror, where it says permanent bond 3 blue android. So it's looking for blue android. It is looking for that one specific character trait. Because it's seeking it out, you follow that the permanent skill will look under the leader or battle area. If it's looking for the omission as cards without, it's looking everywhere else. That is with SS4 Gogeta and Gamma. And that is probably going to be updated relatively soon, especially as we enter the new Zenkai series, as well as going through the regionals and leading up to Nats. And, if, we get to that point and it's not, I don't see why it wouldn't, but it's been clarified, and we've noticed it, and it should be getting changed relatively soon.
Cool. And I think this little other tidbit that's there for the once per turn, we were talking about launch, where if you're swinging with Gogeta into launch, basically if you're comboing and you're trying to proc off her effect, their once per turn effect, it won't be triggered because you can't activate that effect. But
Yeah. So
that doesn't mean you can't use that effect with another card during that turn because it never got
yes.
resolved.
So like you swing SS4 into the launch leader, and the auto is once per turn. With the way auto works, is that it needs to be activated and resolved to have that once per turn then take into effect, and then move on from there. So you can't. That's why once you activate and resolve the launch effect, you can't activate and resolve it again because of once per turn. Because SS4 Gogeta is preventing you from resolving that effect, you're not actually activating and then resolving it. Just because it went into pending doesn't mean it's resolving out of pending.
Right.
So that's why after the SS4 Gogeta swings into launch and then they attack with another battle card, they'll be able to activate and then resolve the launch effect, because once it checks to see if the once per turn did resolve and it sees that it didn't, it will then go into resolution.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Well, that's good to know. What else is good to know? Some keyword stuff. Another question that's been coming out of nowhere in my Discord and as well as Facebook pages and stuff like that. This really
Keyword skills.
Yes, it basically boils down to the differences between keyword skills and keywords, which basically doesn't really change anything, to be honest. It just defines keyword skills as activate, permanent, auto, and counter skills, and then keywords kind of remain the same, right? I don't think there's really too much that actually
Yeah,
changes
it's
for
more
that.
of a clarification rather than trying to create new rulings per se.
Hmm.
The biggest question a lot of people have is, hey, does my one drop black mass saying trigger off of this, keyword skill keyword?
Hmm.
Because the one drop says non-keyword skills. So now you have a definite on keyword skills include activate, permanent, auto, and counter skills. But keywords are associated with skills, including conditions which under skills are valid limitations of a skill cost and activation. So there is ways to, clarify it just a little better. It was mostly
Hmm.
needed to make it easier for players that when they do read the rule book, it's easier to comprehend.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and this is a good example of that, right? So this is an auto that actually plays the card for the Gohan. So if you Spirit Boost as we're removing a marker, Spirit Boost is the keyword, and then auto is the keyword skill. And because it's a basically a keyword skill, then it will fall under
Yes,
that.
it would. Yeah, it falls under everything, but like keywords can be part of keyword skills, which is what you see right there. So
Yeah.
like limit one, and spirit boost are keywords. Auto is a keyword skill. So the keyword skill auto now is featuring those keywords,
Hmm.
but
It's just part
keywords
of
can
the
be part of keyword skills.
right. It's just
But
part of the effect.
exactly,
Yes,
yes.
and it's just defining what they are. That's basically what it comes down
Exactly.
to.
Yep.
And I think people are getting confused because it's so similarly worded. I think if Bandai just like literally called it anything else, it would probably be better. But it is what it
I
is, I
don't make
guess.
the rule book, I just read it.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, speaking of, already went through the ultimate stuff. This listen, guys.
This is my
If this is
favorite
not
slide.
if this is not in at a regional, Cam will literally just run at you like a ram, like he'll
It's like
just
it's actually like the cop from Always, like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs
yeah.
when he's just barreling towards you at top
Exactly.
speed.
Just like
No, so this is
just
something that was very funny. I personally thought it was hilarious that this is how they want game areas to be set up.
just not
Um,
gonna happen, man.
I
Just
don't think
not
it's
gonna
gonna
happen.
happen at all,
Just not gonna
but it
happen.
gives you a good idea of where things are supposed to be. My first look at it was, why is the combo area 3 times as bigger as the battle area when that is completely different?
Yeah, it's yeah.
Imagine a deck like Launch or a deck like U7 using that battle area.
Yeah. That and like King Cold was a good one. Like King
King
Cold. Like where's
Cold,
where's King Cold gonna put his stuff? Like it's just gonna
exactly.
to be over here for
Where's
his
all
battle
my
cards.
where's all my field spells? Hey, can I borrow some of your battle area real quick?
Nope, nope. This hand is being very conservative too, by the way. I don't think Bandai understands how many cards in hand we actually have
That is
sometimes.
that's the hand of someone who just played against the reboot cell deck.
Ah, got it. Or Raditz.
Yeah,
Or
so
Raditz.
yeah, or Raditz,
Yeah.
exactly.
I got bodied by Raditz in Gen Con. It was not fun. Shout out to him
I
though.
watched that.
That was a good. It was a good deck.
No, it the way he played it was very nice.
Yeah. And then we also have awakening stuff. So this some of the stuff is like review, but it also does add Z awakening, and as well as clarifying the 22-4, where to resolve the effects of awakening surge, carry out the indicated effects, and then if the card with this skill is faced up, flip it on over to this back. So there are like some confusions of like it says may or whatever, but it says carry out the intended effects, which is part of the text, and then you flip it over, right? As far as that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
It was just another thing that they clarified and made a little easier to comprehend.
right, exactly. I think this has all of the normal stuff for Z Awakening. I don't think there's too many things that
No, there's nothing really new. It just goes into it more in depth than the Q&A.
yes.
But it just kind of tells you how to process Z Awaken and you know what are the real in-depth rules and regulations over Z Awakening. Since it is a new mechanic to come out, it is something that I believe players should be looking over if they are confused.
Definitely. I think one of the things that you should know is that it can only be declared and activated total once per turn. So that's very good to know, because some people like with the Gotenks reboot and as well as the Goku reboot, the Kid Goku reboot, it gets removed from game, and then if you fulfill the conditions, you can do it again, but you would have to do the next turn. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. What else we got? We have some Z energy costs, and paying Z energy in Z battle cards. Again, this is just like the updated stuff that they put in. Some of the stuff has already been answered on the forums.
Yeah.
Some of the Q&A.
There was something that came up in the discussion group, actually, that was a good question, was because it specifies that the orientation of how Z energy is placed, it says it's placed in active mode.
Oh, yeah.
People were misunderstanding certain mechanics behind it. So the question was, can I use my Z energy to pay for the tax of Mecha Frieza Riposte?
And the answer is no.
But you can't, because you can't tap Z energy. You can't use it as a way to go around that tax. The reason why they're saying active mode is just to define the orientation of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so it's not diagonal or like sideways or whatever, so that
exactly.
Makes sense.
And then another one is what we see in the middle there under 511 is 511-1-1. Unless otherwise specified, the color of the Z cards placed in a drop area does not matter.
Yeah, good call out, because
playing the card, what matters is the color cost, specified cost on the card itself, but the amount of Z energy you have to pay doesn't have to match that color.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is pretty interesting. Also, this is also interesting. We don't have anything, I don't think, that has a Z energy cost of 0 yet, but you can just play
it opens up the door, because that means that they're putting it in there for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to see that. I'm sure there's gonna be like an SER or something like that one day, maybe. I don't know.
That would be a very cool idea. I think that, imagine we get an SCR with a Z cost.
Yeah, Z cost, but also it's specified, so you have to use it on a leader or a specified like battle card or whatever. And it's always gonna be active, so you can play that secret rare at any point. So that is definitely an opportunity.
That's a hard thing to balance, but I think I think that would be a very cool concept to play with.
Yeah. This stuff. So this really comes down to the effects of choosing cards in their combo area or battle cards or whatever it may be. Because I think there's another one, like a non-demo cards that you warp and then use it in the combo.
Yeah. We just want to preface this. We were talking about it to preface that this is something that Bandai should release a Q&A on, because it is important. It's when a question came up, was if you Beyond Darkness Demigra and use the battle cards from your opponent's hand into your combo area, can you use those cards to put into your own Z energy? Right. Now, I've had discussions with people, and we're kind of looking at it from, a lot of people are saying yes, you could, because it's going into your Z energy since it came out of your combo area. Some people are saying, but what's the argument for it if like as you have listed under there, because it's moving an area, it goes back to the owner's area that was specified. So it's going to a Z energy, but it goes to your opponent's Z energy because uh, that's because it's the owner's corresponding area. So
Yeah.
it's a question that we don't have a definitive answer on. So, but while people are watching this, I don't want them to believe that there is a definitive answer when there is not. And it is something that I believe that Bandai should put in the Q&A so that there is more clarification on that. However, we're advocating for that answer. I don't know when it's going to be, or even if it's going to be put in there. So we'll have to wait and see. But it is just an interesting concept that I know I've seen that question on a discussion group before,
Mhm.
and it is something that is cool to bring up. It's a neat interaction, which was bound to come up with the introduction of the whole Z mechanic itself.
Pretty much, yeah. So as it stands, I think this is pretty much how it's going to be ruled, and it makes sense to me, if anything.
No, I mean, like, there's
Yeah.
arguments for both sides, which
Yeah.
is the unfortunate thing because once you now have the argument for both sides, there's no clear, definitive answer, and you don't want a topic of conversation not to have a clear and definitive answer, especially judging an event.
Yeah. So this is definitely going to be put on hold until that gets clarified or added. Hopefully, we'll see. And then we also have the updated Q&A stuff for the battle cards, Z battle cards, and Z deck stuff, which we'll go through in a second on the next one, I do believe. But for Z battle cards, just as a reminder, if it moves from any any area other than your battle area, and this also includes what we were talking about, your opponent's battle area, it's going to be removed from game as well. So that is interesting. So not a Z card battle area. But yeah, anything to add?
So
on
you
these?
don't. It's not really. It's they're putting it in there because Z battle cards are supposed to be always accessible cards that are very powerful. I mean, if you look at some of the Z battle cards, they're already a very powerful effect, like the 2-drop red Goku, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's constantly there and it burns for 1 damage. That is a very powerful effect in a
Yeah.
game with 8 life.
Yep. I do agree.
So it's a good way that you're balancing the actual card mechanic itself.
Right. And by the way, I do want to mention, because I always get this question, Z battle cards only have 1 counter window, so it's basically playing from your hand. So like the Z deck is an extension of your hand, as I understand. So that's it.
No, I think that's a good way. That was a good way to kind of explain it.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. Hey, look, Geneva.
Yeah. I made him put it in the slides.
I know, it's ridiculous. Z deck. So basically, this has a Q&A about all the Z decks. Some very frequently asked questions like, can I check my Z deck in game? Yes, you can. Has to be in certain order. It can be any order. And then it can be 0 to 7. You don't have to have one. But this also includes where Janemba, for instance, says you can't have anything 5 or more as far as energy costs in your deck, as well as an announcer's effect where you can't have non-World Tournament cards in your deck. Battle cards, that is. So that does include your Z deck, as we understand.
Yeah,
so,
it follows all general rules of deck construction, which if we go back to how affirmative and negative references on permanent skills, these are
all
looking
areas.
for an omission. All areas, yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Really good thing to know, because, I mean, you just got to be building jank and then end up being very disappointed. Hey, look.
It was something that I believe that was something to look on, but this is the fun part.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're not going through all of it, but
no, we're not.
So Swamp, back in the day, I don't know how many of you have been around since set 3, but man, Swamp.
If they played during the Storm meta and they were here, really experiencing it, then it's like surviving a very dark time because so many people left when Storm was just rampant.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
It was so fun to play, but it was such a
it was toxic
environment.
It was
there was
bad.
what three big Storm decks. You had Hirudegarn, then you had
Super Saiyan
Blue
3.
Trunks.
Oh, and Blue Trunks as well.
Blue Trunks, and then SS3 before it was hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that SS3 was just something else. That's another topic for another long video.
That's nope.
What has been updated though is that when you swap or activate swap, you have to reveal the specified battle card with energy cost of whatever. So basically, it's just saying that you have to have a target in order to swap to instead
Yeah,
of
to
blinding
even
swap.
activate the effect, you have to show that you have a card that you can swap into, but that doesn't mean you have to play the battle card that you were showing.
Yeah,
You just can't bluff that effect now. You
yeah.
can't be like swap.
And then are you
All
gonna
right,
counterplay
cool.
or what's up?
Exactly. It's like no, it's like you know you have to show the card.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool for that one. And then I just included all the topic changes and things like that. Anything in red is pretty much all the changes, but there are we're not even gonna get through. We're
No,
not
it
gonna
is.
go
It's a
through.
lot of stuff. The rule.
Yeah.
It is a player's responsibility to look over the rule book and understand it. It is a judge's responsibility, and a lot of us that to help clarify the rules and offer, proper uh, answers, guidance, judgment, that type of thing.
Yes.
So that's what we're here for.
Yes.
And obviously, it's here to keep up with the integrity of everything. But there are there are better judges than me in this game. Some people that know the rule book like that,
Mm-hmm.
and but we're all here to kind of help. And I want to help out with answering a lot of these questions, especially with new players coming in during the Zenkai release, because Zenkai has proven that it's going to bring in a lot of people or bring a lot of people back to the game because of how that mechanic is.
Yeah.
So I really implore people look over the rule book. Don't read it like cover to cover like I've been doing, but glance through it. If you have any questions, reference it because it's been developed in such a way where it's much more pleasing to read. It is much more pleasing to read than what the old one was. Um, and then also just refamiliarize yourself with the card related rules
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure you really are playing it, since that is a new mechanic. That's going to be a lot of questions going into effect once the Zenkai release happens and people are really playing with the cards.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. There's a lot of stuff that did get changed, but I think overall it's a lot better. But I think that was a good outro. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I would say. Anything else before we sign off?
No, you mentioned it at the beginning of the video. If you have any questions or have any like scenarios that you want to bring up, uh, you know, he said put it down into the comment section. Either him or myself can kind of take it and either try to answer it. I'll try to answer it the best I can. However, if it's a question that even poses a little bit of trouble to me, because let's be honest, I haven't been able to really memorize the entire thing, so I'll still have questions based on certain scenarios. But I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want to PM me directly, you're more than welcome to. You can private message me on Facebook with certain questions and scenarios. I'll do my best to go through and clarify what would happen. But I'm more than willing to answer questions that you guys have.
For sure. I do agree, and I'm right there with you. And of course, join the Discord. I most of the time answer questions there as well. And
Great
a lot of people
Discord.
who are there.
Great Discord.
I try. It's gonna be hopefully more active as well as I start. This is one of the reasons why I'm doing this is to understand the rulebook more. But as I start the circus series again in Zenkai, so that will be cool.
Yeah.
Subscribe if you're new.
I'm part of the
Yeah.
Discord too. So if people have questions, you can ping me there too.
Oh, that is an easy pink right there. But yeah, subscribe if you're new, like, dislike, all that other stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Cam. We'll see you in the next one.
Have a good one.